Welcome everyone, it's Stephen Shaw from Hope for Founders. Today I would like to speak about emotional intelligence. Now, emotional intelligence is an interesting topic at the moment. A lot of people will make a comment to me, oh, you come across emotionally intelligent. I'm not really sure if that is the case. I've done a lot of work into understanding this, and one of the biggest steps is self-awareness, which I'll talk about in a second. And a lot of people are looking to hire people that are emotionally intelligent. So it's interesting because I don't know how they go about assessing whether someone's emotionally intelligent or not, especially without sort of understanding what is the definition of emotional intelligence. But the first step is actually becoming self-aware. If people were to rate themselves in self-awareness, between 1 and 10, it'd be interesting where you sort of see yourself. And the next step is maybe sort of understanding that 95% of people perceive they are self-aware, but only 10 to 15% of people actually are self-aware. So why is it important to develop your self-awareness? Well, it increases your job satisfaction, strengthens your personal and professional relationships, enhances your decision-making, leadership effectiveness, improves your communication and conflict resolution. As a leader, increases your psychological safety and team collaboration, and it reduces your blind spots and strengthens your personal impact. So a lot of benefits in being self-aware. And where did sort of this emotional intelligence definition come from? Well, look, there's a few different ones out there, but probably the most accepted is Daniel Goleman's, and he's got a book called Emotional Intelligence. And he breaks it down into 4 different categories. There's self-awareness, so understanding your emotions, your strengths, your weaknesses, your drives, motivation and needs. Self-management, acting before you act, regulate your emotions and redirect your challenges and thoughts and moods. Your social awareness, how do you understand other people's and their emotions and the influence and the environment and the feelings and emotions. And relationship management, understanding how do you manage those relationships, influence and inspire others, lead and develop others. There is quite a few different sort of tests you can do to sort of help with your self-awareness, and I'll go through those in a second. But what I will say is it probably comes down to ultimately being authentic. I don't necessarily like people using authentic all the time, because where I see people using authentic is in their professional career, and you only need to look at their LinkedIn. Everyone talks about all their strengths and sort of exaggerates their achievements, and everyone wants to sort of look like Darth Vader, but really they're just a stormtrooper. So I think you can't really sort of even start this emotional intelligence path if you're not really honest with yourself. And if you look back, a lot of these tests will give you sort of insights, and it really comes down to whether you want to accept those and open for that feedback. But when you do, you'll sort of realise that there's probably been a lot of that feedback in the past, and nothing really surprises you, but it comes down ultimately, are you prepared to sort of make the changes to make that better? So some of the tests that can help you on that path are Myers-Briggs, 16personalities.com. It's got a free test there, give you some insights into your different personality types. You can do DISC, which has 4 categories. You're going to be a combination of all these, but usually there's sort of some dominant ones. So don't feel that you're put into a particular category. It's just sort of where you more your preference. So these 4 categories: there's compliance, which is someone that's exact, logical and analytical. Steadiness, someone who's calm, patient and modest. Dominance, someone who's competitive, aggressive, decisive, result orientated. And then there's influence, someone who's talkative, social, optimistic and lively. There's another one called Enneagrams. Enneagrams is 9 different personalities. You'll see that you'll come out with a certain number, but you'll go into different sort of categories depending on sort of what situations you're put into. So, for example, I'm a 2, which is considered helper. I get value in helping others. I can only help others so much, and some of the things you sort of always got to remind yourself is you can't help others if you can't help yourself. So you can't sort of get the batteries too low, and that sort of explains why do I sort of go to an 8. I'm not a controlling person, but what I do is kind of the opposite. I need to back off when people are trying to take too much from me. Some people, unfortunately, always want to take advantage of other people, and part of sort of my regulation is probably reducing some of those people in my life. And to get back to sort of being a helper, I go into what's called before intense creative, and that's where I love things like going walk in the ocean with my wife, playing park with my child, guitar, some sport, going for a surf, all those types of things, and that gets me back to my core, which is considerate helper, and I'm back helping people. So next thing you can do is an emotional intelligence test. There's one at psychologytoday.com. It's a 20-question questionnaire in 3 minutes. That'll give you some feedback on your overall emotional intelligence. And as I said, these things are all tools to help you, but ultimately it comes down to accepting some of those or looking back for feedback if those things do resonate. And are you prepared to sort of change? Seems that 90% of people aren't prepared to change. Not surprising. I think if you're sort of by my age, you see a lot of people still the same people they were and probably always will be. And that's because it's hard to change. I've put in a lot of work with anything that I want to develop. It's not always just developing the strengths, but also sort of working on the weaknesses. But I don't think what I will say is you don't need to necessarily change the weaknesses. They might not be a weakness, they're just a situation where you go for certain reasons. And there's nothing wrong with that. What you've got to ask yourself is, who are the people that are putting you there? Maybe you don't necessarily need those people in your life. I think a lot of people, as they get older, they kind of reduce their circle. If you become more self-aware, you have better relationships and stronger relationships, and you probably want to spend time with the people that like you for who you are, and you deepen those relationships. And you can't do that if you're busy sort of trying to please everyone. And I think that's sort of the balance with this process is ultimately, who do you want to be? And if you really do not like that about yourself, then put in the effort and the work to look at changing those things. Or sometimes it's actually accepting that and understanding sort of why is that the case. Sometimes these things are actually quite a strength, but they're a way of sort of developing with certain people and certain situations, and it's just a better understanding. And that overall self-awareness is important. It's not about changing, it's about sort of then going through and being aware, and how do you sort of then manage your emotions, and then manage relationships with others as well. So thanks for that. Have a great day. Hope the weather finds up for the weekend. It's pretty terrible out there at the moment, but hope you're all having a great day. Thank you.